So you want in on the $300 billion AI chip market, but the question is AMD versus Nvidia, which is the better stock to buy? You don't want to make this big mistake in your analysis and your comparison because you don't want to end up with a big fat money bomb in your portfolio. In this video, we're going to cover the market positioning, the unique competitive advantages of both of these companies. We're going to take a look at their growth story, the key financials, and I'm going to give you my valuations of both. On the one hand, you have the gigantic business that is Nvidia. They are currently hands down the #1 top performance AI chip in the business, and they're enjoying the majority of the market share. They're aiming to create a monopoly with ecosystem lock-in, and the question is, can they do this over and over and over again for the years to come? On the other hand, we have AMD, which is a much smaller business, the David to the Nvidia Goliath. The question is, with the big boom in AI chips and data centers, can AMD carve out a slice of this gigantic pie and relate that slice into gigantic profits? Since it's such a smaller business, those profits could have an explosive improvement to their stock price performance. When making your analysis against these two businesses, I don't want you to make this one crucial mistake. What you don't want to do is make the mistake of seeing the opportunity through the wrong context. AI, the AI boom, it's actually an arms race. It is a function of national security. This is a matter of life or death. It's actually geopolitical in nature. The cost of these chips, the hardware itself, are actually peanuts compared to the value that their AI development will bring. Business and corporations and governments are going to be paying for performance at all costs. Time equals money, and time saved training AI models is what companies and governments are paying for. Nvidia versus AMD, this is their revenue for the past 10 years. If you take a look at it back in 2016, you can see that Nvidia and AMD were basically tied. Nobody was that much better than the other. Then in 2023, as we all know, the AI boom took off, and that's when you saw Nvidia's revenue skyrocket past AMD's at an amount of 5x. What you need to remember here is that they make the same products, but as we all know, the best chips, the highest performance chips, Nvidia makes the best chips in the game, the best AI chips. The point of this graph is it shows that the businesses, corporations, and governments that are paying for these data center chips, they are valuing performance at all costs, and the money is going to whoever makes the best chip. Here we're taking a look at the gross profit margins, AMD versus Nvidia. We already know that Nvidia is making 5x the revenue compared to AMD. But to add to that, which is absolutely insane, is how much more margin that they're able to charge compared to AMD. Meta, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, they are paying more at a higher margin and purposely choosing to get price gouged because they are valuing performance over everything. Here we can see the companies and how much of the data center chip market that they have, how much market share that they have. In yellow is Intel, in gray is AMD, and in blue and Nvidia. In 2023, the AI boom took off, and as we can see, Intel and AMD has been generally flat for the past 2 years. During that same time, king of chips Nvidia grew their revenue and grew their market share, now enjoying 90% of the data center chip market share in the world. Over 90% of AI infrastructure is being built on Nvidia chips. And that's very important because we know that they aspire to lock these companies and corporations into the Nvidia ecosystem for the long term. So the whole point of investing into one of these two companies is because the AI arms race boom is going to be a catalyst for their growth. Looking forward to 2025, the value of the AI server segment is expected to grow to $300 billion. So we want to look at where Nvidia is actually making its money from to see if it's going to benefit from that boom. Nvidia makes its revenue from 5 places: data center, gaming, ProViz, automotive, and OEM. If you look at Q4 2024, 87% of Nvidia's already massive revenue is in fact coming from data center AI chips. Nvidia is making 5x the revenue, charging the higher margins, and the majority of the revenue and focus is coming from AI chips. They make the most powerful chips and they got 90% of the market share. So we're asking ourselves, as we experience the catalyst from the AI boom, is Nvidia poised to capture that growth of $300 billion of spend in data center chips? Right now, with 87% of the revenue coming there, it's fair to say that Nvidia is a specialist focusing on AI chips. All right, so taking a look at AMD's revenue by segment, you can see of their $6.8 billion in revenue, only $3.5 billion came from actual data center AI chips revenue. So that's only 51% of their revenue. When it comes to AMD, we know that they're making the weaker chips. They're making 1/5 the revenue of Nvidia, and they're currently only sharing 10% of the data center market with Intel. Most of the AI infrastructure is already built on Nvidia, and as we know, there's going to be an AI race and time equals money. Companies value performance over everything. Moving forward in 2025, we ask ourselves, how much of that pie can AMD get? And at only 50% revenue, that would mean that AMD is more of a computer hardware generalist, not necessarily specialized in making the highest performance chips. AMD will definitely only get the crumbs of the AI boom, definitely not the lion's share. So looking at the free cash flow, Nvidia versus AMD, you can see how much of a massive lead that Nvidia has over AMD. It's making 37 times the profit of AMD. Both businesses have amazing margins and both will benefit from the AI boom, but with this much cash and resources available to Nvidia, they have more flexibility, they can R&D harder, and they already have the massive amount of market share. So you can see how difficult it will be for AMD to catch up when performance matters during the AI arms race, and AMD is not going to catch up anytime soon. So here's the growth story for Nvidia. They're currently the king of chips, enjoying 90% of the market share by making the #1 top performance best chips in the world. They have 5x the revenue over AMD. They have the best team because they make the best innovation, they produce the best chips, and this very same team is working to lock in the corporations into the Nvidia ecosystem, and it's a story of the top dog staying top dog, the big getting bigger. On the other side of the coin, we got AMD's growth story. AMD, the much smaller company, is going to absolutely benefit from the AI boom, and hopefully as that pie grows bigger, AMD will find some unknown slice of that market share and absolutely capitalize on it. AMD being the smaller company, these profits are basically on sale, and you could see much more explosive stock price performance because AMD has so much room to catch up with Nvidia. So now it's time to ask ourselves which is the right stock to buy, and there's 3 things that we want to remember. The AI boom is going to be an arms race. The majority of that spend from that arms race is going to go to the #1 highest performance chip. And of course, the question that matters to you, that is probably more important than these 2 things to remember, is that is the stock itself a good price and a good value for you to buy? Here's my discounted free cash flow model for AMD. I got to an intrinsic value per share of $107, and I used some pretty optimistic growth percentages because AMD were hoping to capture a big part of that market share to fill some sort of gap in the AI boom. When we're buying a stock, we're asking ourselves 2 questions. What's the better business in the better position? And is the price right of the stock? It's currently trading at $119, so based on my valuation, it's a little bit overpriced. On top of that, analysts are expecting a 2025 price target, an average of $126. So also the analysts don't believe that the stock price is going to move much more. That being said, if you do believe in the growth story of AMD, that the AI boom is going to leave a big hole for them to fill that will result in massive profits and the growth story for AMD, then I think you would want a higher margin of safety. It's overpriced right now because we don't know what gap AMD is going to fill. My discounted free cash flow valuation for Nvidia, I got to an intrinsic value per share of $126. It's currently trading at $136. That being said, just earlier this week, you could scoop up some shares at $129. So basically, Nvidia has been fairly priced this week at least. So I use more conservative numbers. I want you to remember that because Nvidia is such a big company, I thought that it would make more sense to err on the side of conservative because you wouldn't expect massive numbers from a company already this gigantic. Analysts are seeing an average price target of $180. So analysts are already also believing in the growth story. And in the past year, the price has grown, not shrank. So the market investors are believing in Nvidia's growth story, and it's currently at a fair value. So if I had to buy only one stock for 2025, I would in fact choose Nvidia. The mega company is in the best position to benefit from the AI boom in 2025. It's got the gigantic resources and the track record to continue being dominant in the AI chip game. I believe that the price is already a fair value and its trajectory is looking favorable to grow. On the other hand, AMD has an uncertain growth story, and in fact, it actually might be a little bit overvalued as it is. I believe it would come down a little bit more until we get any good news. On top of that, for the growth story, we don't actually know what part of the market that AMD will actually fill, so you are in fact betting into the dark. For my pick, I would have to choose Nvidia.